Hello everyone, I'm Rakshan and on behalf of Hack the Mountains, I welcome you all to HTM Qubits, a series of workshops from 20th of September to 9th of October. Now, what will you gain by attending these sessions? So, learning and experience sharing by industry professionals and a certificate of participation for which we'll be sharing a link at the end of the workshop. Now, coming towards our today's session, have you ever thought of starting your own startup, but you don't know how to start your journey? A startup is a company or project that is begun by an entrepreneur to seek to develop and validate a scalable economic model. We at Hack the Mountain are coming up with a live workshop on starting a company as a student. Now, about our today's speaker, David Bromberg. He is a founding partner at Open Water Accelerator and helping early stage startups. He was also a founder at Say Mile, a plug and play platform that enables any retailer or business to develop their customers within the hour. We are happy to have you, sir, and I'll hand over the session to you.
Awesome. Thanks for the intro. Hey guys, great to be here. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to walk you through my experience about how I founded Open Water Accelerator, how we're currently raising our fund, and then help you a bit about how to launch your own company. So first, I'm going to tell you a bit more about me. My name's David. I'm the founder of Open Water Accelerator. I write a newsletter. I recently dropped out of college, and before Open Water, I founded an e-commerce automation company. So the agenda is I'm going to walk you through Open Water's mission, how we founded and grew the Open Water team, the current problems we had, and then I'm going to tell you at the end how to break into VC as a student and founding a company as a student. Given that this is geared towards a hackathon, most people are students, I'm probably going to go a bit faster through the founding story of Open Water and the companies we invest in, just so we can spend more time about growing your own company at the end. So first, let me tell you a bit more about Open Water. The goal of Open Water as a startup accelerator is to help founders get to market faster. So here's how we do this and why we're different than other startup accelerators. Y Combinator, what they do is they invest $150,000 in startups. Instead of investing capital at Open Water, we invest talent. We hire talent and then we pay their salaries for 3 months long. During 3 months, these talent works, these engineers build exclusively on our portfolio companies. The next thing we do is we host founder dinners every week so founders can share ideas and their problems and how they solve them. We hold office hours with us and other Silicon Valley entrepreneurs that come in weekly to answer questions. And finally, we invest. We're in the process of raising a $5 million fund, and we plan to invest about $25,000 into every single startup. We're just starting this process of raising, so I could talk a bit more about that in the question and answer section at the end. So here are the types of companies we invest in. The ideal company is either enterprise SaaS, fintech, or consumer social. If you're an enterprise SaaS business, we want you to be 10% better than the incumbent. If you're fintech, you should be democratizing access to financial technology. And if you're a consumer social company, we believe the future of consumer social is platforms that are private by default and drive offline interaction. So those are the three main categories of companies we invest. We like these three categories since we know them well and we believe in our thesis. But that being said, if you come to us with an interesting company that's not fit in this, we still could take it. Our ideal company has also raised between $50,000 and $850,000 in pre-seed financing. We find that this is where we can provide the most value. Our ideal company also has a feature backlog. What that means is that they have a list of features that their current customers have requested that their engineering team just is too strained to get to build. Why we like this is upsell on underdogs. If you have a feature backlog and you have existing paying customers, it means that if you start building these features, you can upsell your existing customers and create a lot of value from that. The next thing we're looking for is underdogs. For some reason, your team's been underestimated, but when we give you this extra bandwidth, these extra couple engineers, you can build much faster and finally reach your full potential. So we're looking for really people who've been underestimated and that they're true, the reason that they're not growing since they can't build fast enough. So let me kind of tell you why we started Open Water. So I founded Open Water in March. I founded Open Water because there were talented builders that were out of work. We saw that people at tech companies were getting laid off, and master's students also had all their summer internships canceled. The other macro issue we saw is that it was becoming harder to raise venture capital since companies were preparing for a recession due to coronavirus. So as a result, they were not taking new meetings. So because of this, I saw that our startups they didn't have the money to hire new people, and there are all these really talented people at work. So what we decided to do is we took a gamble. We take all these people that just lost their jobs, we match them to portfolio companies, we pay their salary for 3 months. At the end of the 3 months, the idea is that they've grown faster so they could raise their next round since they have something to show venture capitalists that this hyper growth that VCs love. The last two macro issues that it's very hard to recruit for a startup since they're always trying to recruit people away from big tech. People love, startups love people who worked at Amazon, Facebook, Google. As a result, since they're all targeting the same few people, it becomes very expensive and time, costly to recruit. So that's kind of our thesis at Openwater. We thought that we could match talent to startups quickly. We could create a lot of value since startups could build faster, get the engineers they need, and then raise the next round at a higher valuation. So here's how we hired Openwater. This is one of the things that we're innovative about. We don't do any resumes. We don't even ask for them. We don't ask any algorithmic questions either for coding. What we do ask is we ask, what's the most impressive thing you built? And we ask you to describe it in 2 sentences. If this is cool, we give you a 15-minute interview. It's rapid fire, some personal questions, some slight technical questions. And then after that, we give you a coding test. With the coding test, you only get it if you don't have a GitHub portfolio that's online as impressive projects. The coding test takes about 5 hours. You have to build, a lightweight clone of Reddit or a to-do list or something like that. What we're looking for is we're looking for hackers. We look people that love to build and they build in their free time. We want people that build quickly, and these people sometimes have untraditional backgrounds. What we do not want is what we call classroom coders. Classroom coders are great students, straight A's, but they're not good at building. So here's a bit more about our first cohort. We had 15 companies participate in it. Of those 15 companies, we assigned 80 engineers to them. After the cohort ended after 3 months, 4 of our companies raised seed rounds, and 2 of them shut down. So here's some lessons I learned from our first cohort. Idea versus team. So team is incredibly important. There are a couple companies we founded that had awesome ideas, but weren't as strong. What we found is that the true indicator of success is the strength of the team. A strong team will beat out a great idea any single day with a weak team. Since startups is all about your ability to execute. The next thing we learned is good news travels quickly. When a company closed a new client, they got a new hire, I'd hear, within a day, if not faster. They'd send me a text, call me, they'd be super excited. When bad news happened, sometimes it'd take 3 weeks before portfolio companies told me. Why this is bad is, as an investor and the head of the accelerator, we want to help our companies. So as a result, we started investor updates. Investor updates are weekly updates where you say 3 things are going well, 2 things that you want to improve on. We then set up weekly calls with our founders where we figure out how we can improve upon them. With this, it's no longer shameful to call us with bad news. So as a result, we have removed the stigma against bad news, and people tell us good news and bad news every single week, and we're able to build faster and help solve their problems. The last thing I learned is ABS. Always be shipping and always be selling. Founders, a lot of them are perfectionists. They want to wait till the feature's perfect. They want to wait till their MVP is perfect, their second version, etc. You have to be always shipping. So what we do is we have a schedule to ship with them. Say, every 2 weeks you're going to have a ship. You're going to release features. And because of that, even if feature's not perfect, you're forced to release it, and then you can iterate on in the future. By having a scheduled set ship date for every single feature, it keeps everyone honest and makes sure that we're not spending time making everything perfect and over-optimizing. Last, always be selling. You always have to be selling. Even before you build something, start selling it and see if people are interested in selling. And money, letter of intent, or actual contracts is the best way to validate your ideas. Here's a bit about growing Openwater. So here's how we grew so quickly. We have a newsletter that's grown to 70,000 subscribers. Afterwards, I'll send it out so you guys can all subscribe. It's called the Openwater Weekly. In this newsletter, we interview investors every single week and founders that have all started large tech companies. As a result, through this newsletter, since we're interviewing investors and founders, it attracts more founders as the readers. As a result, through this newsletter, we get deal flow. We get 50 deals every single week by people that read the newsletter, respond saying, I love this. I love the interview. Here's what I'm building. So that's one reason the newsletter is helpful. The second reason is that it gives us investors and mentors. When we interview these venture capitalists for our newsletter, we become friends with them and we keep a relationship with them. Then later on, when a portfolio company matches that investor's thesis, I reach out and set up a meeting. So as a result, we have a super wide investment network right now. The next thing we do is mentorship. With these founders always like to help founders. So we meet cool founders through newsletter. When I think that they'd like one of our portfolio companies, I introduce them, and sometimes they become mentors. So the next thing we're launching Open Water University this spring. The problem for Open Water University is startups don't want new grad engineers. They want to hire FANG engineers. And why this is an issue is FANG engineers have unvested stock. What that means is they have a lot of money that they'll lose if they leave the company. So as a result, it becomes very difficult to hire since engineers don't want to leave big tech and startups want the engineers working at big tech. So what we say is we upskill MIT engineers. We take college graduate engineers, we run them through, in their senior year, fall their senior year, we run them through a 3-week course, which teaches them best practices about the right unit tests, proper GitHub management, proper documentation, just the simple stuff that you don't learn in school. After this, then they're knowledgeable enough to be matched with one of the portfolio companies. So finally, right now we're raising a fund. We're raising a $3 million fund. And we're now looking for investors. We're looking to close about $1.5 million. So why invest in us? And who is investing in us? So one, people that's invested is the entrepreneurship centers across the country, United States. They're investing in us because it gives them access to our talent network, so their students can start working in portfolio companies. They're also investing in us to get access to Openwater University. And finally, they invest in us so their angel network can also invest in Openwater portfolio companies. Later stage funds are investing in us because they really want access to our deal flow. And micro LPs are investing in us, just people that read our newsletter and think that we're pretty cool and working on something special. Here's our advantage and why you should go with Openwater and why people invest in us. We have great engineers. We look for diverse talent that's sometimes underestimated, but every single engineer we provide can code, and we can staff our portfolio companies with fantastic engineers within a week. We have a scout network across the world of 100 scouts looking for cool early stage startups. We have the leading waitlist API and test flight analytics platform. So we know, early on if startups are doing well just based on their website and test flight analytics. And we run a newsletter of 70,000 subscribers that we get deal flow through that as well. So now I'm just going to go to the part where I assume most of you guys are really interested in. I want to start a company. So here's how I recommend starting a company. The first thing you should do is validate your idea. Validate your idea by starting a waitlist. Come up with a name, set up a landing page, and mock up your app. Explain what it's going to do. Then you launch on Product Hunt, say you're in closed beta, and start cold emailing different people about what you're going to build. These first 2 steps validate the idea. If people are interested in your idea and they think that they want to pay for it, then actually start building. This is kind of the most important thing. I see many founders start building before they've actually validated the idea. I think it's a big mistake. So after you validate the idea, the next thing you do is you assemble the team. By assembling the team, you look to start your co-founders and you start building. Finally, once you build, you launch. Ideally, if you did step 1 right, starting a waitlist, you have customers that are willing to test your product. They're already ready. You let them one by one off the waitlist. You do a 1-by-1 30-minute onboarding. You get their feedback, and you keep letting one customer at a time off the waitlist. And then finally, pivot. If your customers don't like the product, if you think that no one actually is interested, you pivot the idea and you keep building. So that's kind of just the general framework about how to build. And I'll tell you a bit more about this later. So here, when I'm meeting with a startup, here's some questions I ask. The first thing is, what are you building? Now, this is obvious, but if you can't explain in 90 seconds what you're building, why you're building, you have a bad idea. The next thing I ask is, if everything goes right, where are you from now? This serves 2 purposes. First, it shows that it's better than total addressable market. It shows how big an idea can get. Second, it's really just an exercise of imagination. You see where a founder is right now, what their MVP looks like, and you get to know their full vision. So a lot of times in venture capital, we're betting on vision, not what's right now. Finally, ask what will you do with 3 more engineers. This just shows, how are you going to allocate your talent. We also use this to filter people out to make sure you're building the right things. We were interviewing a company a couple weeks ago. They're building a streaming platform. So instead of using for their MVP a proprietary, an engine like Amazon streaming engine, they're building their own engine. That's what they said they do with 3 more engineers. For them, it's just a waste of money at this stage to build a streaming engine. So as a result, we passed. It's a bad use of resources. The next thing a lot of people say is, I want to be a venture capitalist. Here's how you should break into VC, or how you can. We interviewed Turner Novak last week for our newsletter. Turner Novak broke into venture capital by creating what he calls a fantasy portfolio. You take 5 early stage startups, you write a blog post, and you say, this is why I invested in them. Then you have this thing online. So a couple years later, you can go back to it and say, if you hired me, 5 years ago, this is what you would have invested in. This is what your returns would have been. So as a result, it's a pretty cool way just to build a track record as a VC without actually investing any money. The next thing you can do is be an early adopter. Get on Product Hunt, get on Twitter, get on the internet, find new technologies before they're popular. And after using this new technology, if you really like the product, talk to the founder. Send the founder an email, recommend some features, and get to know the founder and like what drives them. And if you're doing this, the next thing you do is you transition this into scout position at a known VC by showing them your fantasy portfolio. And the last thing you can do is you can start blogging about different experiences you had about your fantasy portfolio and get into venture capital that way. The one thing I say is be wary of Twitter. Twitter is a great way to grow your brand, but it's not necessary. If you do any of these other steps, you don't have to be big on Twitter. So that was just kind of a very short introduction about me and starting a company, and also about my time at Openwater. I kind of went through this quickly since I'd love to get into a Q&A session afterwards and answer any questions you have about starting a company as a student, raising a venture capital fund, or anything about Openwater. All right. So let's just open up the floor for questions.
Yes, we'll wait for a minute. Participants, if you have any questions, you can write it down on the Q&A comment section. I guess the participants don't have any question. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Thank you for you guys taking the time. Afterwards, please subscribe to our newsletter. We'll send it out. And if you guys are interested in our Scout program, or you're working in a cool startup, send me an email. I'd love to talk to you guys.
Yes, sir. So that was a simulating session. I'm absolutely sure our participants actually learned a lot. So we have actually a question from Vidya. So if you don't mind, I'll share it to you. Yeah. So Vidya has asked, can you give more information on idea validation?
Yeah, totally. I'd be happy to. So for your idea validation phase, what I do is I'd create a simple landing page online, built with Wix, you can code it yourself, and I'd first determine what you want your product to be. So what are your 3 major features? And then I'd put this online. So I'd put it up, say you're in private beta, even though you're not, you lie, and you put up a waiting list. Every single person that subscribes, you add them to a newsletter, and then you reach out and do a customer discovery call. You say, what features would you really like in this platform? So it's like what Paul Graham says. You always are talking to your customers first. And once you've talked to a couple of customers, got 20 people on the wait list, then I start building the product. Since then the idea has been validated. I know that someone cares about it besides myself, that I'm solving a real problem. And as a result, I then feel confident to start building it and know that people will be paying for it.
So I hope Vidya answered your question. So participants, we will wait for a minute again. If you still have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. So anyways, we don't have any questions. So I guess the participants absolutely loved your session, and they also came to know a lot about Open Water Accelerator and how it works. And so thank you so much for spending your time and having us for sharing your valuable experience and knowledge about how to create a startup. So once again, thank you for so much, sir. And to all our participants, I have a news for you. The team has decided to extend the registration session for a Hack the Mountains hackathon. So the team has decided to extend it till 8th. So now I would request you guys to log into hackthemountains.tech immediately and register yourself. Also, we have shared a feedback form. So if it would be great if you could fill it out soon if you want a certificate. So that's all from our side. Good night to everyone, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow.
I have going, guys.